Hey guys, well, mission failure. We're down at AT&T trying to get our two accounts set up, our two SIM card accounts. Wasn't too expensive. It was 8 gig a month, plus we get all these free downloads for some of your social media, plus free text messages and calls to Canada and the US for about $400 for a year, I think each. So Selena and I were going to do that, but Amex cards wouldn't work, just wouldn't work at all, and Wise transfer cards wouldn't work. So Dan's come back. He's going to grab his passport and we're going to go to his HSBC bank and we're going to change some cash, and it's paid in cash. So pretty awkward, pretty tricky, but this is what you got to do apparently. It gets sorted. Not everything runs smooth in Mexico or in Latin America, and we're going to try and get onto that now, and we'll see how that goes. You can be on here, Dan.
Hello. Right, we're just off to go and get the mobile phone contracts.
Yep, excellent. So Dan's really good. He knows what everyone needs, and what the first thing we need is a couple of SIM cards so that we can have some Mexican phone numbers, and we can't really do business over here, internally without it. So it's just an absolute necessity. So we got data while we're roaming around. So Dan, where is it that we're actually going? What's the shopping centre called?
So it's not a shopping centre.
Or what is it?
We're still in Coyoacán. We're going to a main avenue called Miguel Ángel de Quevedo. So this is, and we're going to an AT&T cell phone shop.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. So Coyoacán is a suburb that Dan's put us up in, where his Airbnb is. Again, we'll leave the link later on when I do a bit more about Dan's Airbnb and the new project he's got coming up, which looks amazing. So. Okay, AT&T is around the corner, and that was one of the providers that we had recommended to us that might be just very simple to get a pay-as-you-go style couple of SIM cards for us. Guys, we'll have a look at a bit of the scenery as we go along, and then we'll have a look at how difficult it is to actually get a couple of SIM cards when you can't speak Spanish. Hey guys, welcome back. Well, we had a hell of a morning this morning. As we told you before, we went down to AT&T. Thank God Dan was with us, because no one there spoke English. So what happened was we basically tried to get some charge cards, for our phones, SIM cards. But the way it all works out, it's so much probably more efficient, more cost effective to actually just get a year contract with our own numbers, and I think it was 8 gig a month plus a phone number plus free texts and calls through Canada, US and Mexico. And I think there was also no data limit if you're uploading to 5 social media choices. You get to choose. So I guess what would you be? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that, right? So that was about 4,000 Mexican pesos for a year each. So it's kind of about $370 Australian for the year for all that data and that sort of access on this continent, which is pretty good, I reckon. So, but Amex wouldn't work, which is interesting because Amex has worked elsewhere. And then my Wise account wouldn't work. So we're just sitting there. So it was like, oh crap. And we're running out of time because we had our appointment at the immigration office. So they just basically went, well, Dan spoke to him and said, okay, we've got to come back and do cash. So lucky I'd had some cash on me and my passport. And so we went, right, let's go around the corner to Dan's HSBC and we'll change some money. Guess what? They don't change money at that HSBC. So we had to go and drive to a shopping centre to go to an actual money change booth, like in the middle of the aisles, and change, about $1,000 Australian. So we had all this money to go back. Race back. We got there at about 1 o'clock. Our appointment time was running out. We were starting to get pretty stressed. Finally, dumped the cash on. Got our mobile phone number. Got our mobile phone data set up and ready. Created an Uber account. Got back to Dan's house. Created an Uber account. Got into an Uber. Jumped in. We got here at 2 o'clock, which was basically the end of our appointment. To Newland Chase, up kind of near where some of the big parks are and the big national museums. So I was like, whew, finally got here. got into the Newland Chase immigration lawyers who are going to submit the paperwork for us, and sat down. Really simple. Mr. Ricardo just gave us basically three dumps of documents. Said, here you go, sign here, and here. Fill out these forms for your son. Probably took us all about 6.5 minutes. Left our passports with him. Today is Wednesday. He's going to hand it in on Friday morning to the immigration office. We'll get an email. We'll then get told to go to the immigration office for a couple of hours, get fingerprinted, get our little temporary residence visa cards, and we're done. So, look guys, look, I know everyone says you don't have to have someone assisting you with some of this paperwork, even with a phone account. Oh man, I reckon if we didn't have Dan this morning, we would have been shot. And then we probably wouldn't have got here to our appointment at the lawyers, which has started to make it very easy. So, I don't know, if you can't speak the language, you're going to need someone to hold your hand for a while. We can't speak the language, so, you know, just this first day in Mexico has been a pretty good eye-opener of why, as soon as we get to Merida, we're going to need to jump in and just pay for some lessons every day for a couple of weeks. That's the three of us. That'll be some of our education going along to make sure we can start to pick up the language, because things will be so much easier. My first impressions of Mexico. Yeah, it reminds me of the back areas of Bangkok a little bit. Those sort of buildings are a bit run down. Bustly, hustly. I would never want to drive in it just yet. That's pretty full on. But anyway, look, things have gone okay so far, considering. So anyway, guys, well, we're going to go and have something to eat now. So if it looks good, we'll have you come and join us. All right, talk to you soon. See ya. Hey everyone, welcome back. Had a quick little interesting start to this morning today after we did a few things, help gave Dan a little bit of a hand moving some furniture. Got a call back that I had to come and redo some paperwork yesterday. Got a call to come back and re-sign some paperwork at the lawyers for the visa. So I've just come into Chapultepec and just quickly got that done. Took all of 20 seconds to sign it, and had a little bit of a chat about what tomorrow's event is going to be at the immigration office to get our visa cards. But the reason I want to have a quick little chat here before we actually start the day and get some things done, I've still got to get back home, was sat in the front seat and talked to the Uber driver, which was just great. It was just me and him, and he spoke pretty good English, and he was from Venezuela, and he's been in Mexico for 6 months. And I was like, mate, where did you learn to speak English? And he said, I just listen to music, internet, you know, basically taught myself. And I said, okay, why is that? He said, I want to get out of Venezuela and bring my family to Mexico for better opportunities, better work, kind of less overt corruption, so to speak. And it was really interesting, like, because it just reminded me of that you can do anything that you choose to. So this guy's taught himself English, and English is not easy to learn when you come from another language. You know, there's so many exceptions on rules and things. But his motivation was very strong. His motivation was a survival instinct. His motivation was, if I can do this, then I can bring my family to Mexico for a better life. Interestingly enough, he said, it's very confronting being here as a Venezuelan to listen to the Mexican people crying, talking about how they desperately want to get to Mexico, to the US. We desperately want to get to the US for a better life, He said, and then when Mexican people get there, either, you know, via immigration or basically illegally, he said, then they start crying about the same sort of things, working long hours, the boss takes too much money, you know, I'm basically, you know, slaving away to survive. And he said, why did you leave Mexico? He said, it's the same, if it's going to be the same thing in the US. However, here we have a more of a family and relationship orientated culture. He said, you've got a great culture here, why would you import American culture to your Mexican culture and really, you know, bastardize it, so to speak. And it was interesting to listen to that the grass is always greener in some things. And he said, I get why Western people want to come to Latin America. He said, you guys have zero life balance. He said, we hold very, very highly family and our relationships with our friends, our circle. He said, if you're in Venezuela, he said, you know that you spend some time with the taxi driver or you spend some time with the bank teller, he said, they become your friends. You'll invite them to your house. You'll be friends for life. He said, so I miss that about his country. He said it's slowly being removed here in Mexico because it's being westernized by a lot of Canadian and US people. And he said, so this is the things that, you know, where the grass is always greener. He said, people are forgetting if you go into that high stressed Western lifestyle where it's all about work. He said, you will miss your lifestyle balance with family and relationships. So it was just interesting to hear. It was good to hear. And again, it is something that I'm looking forward to embracing a little bit while we're over here, is meeting people, making some relationships. But you know, the driver has spurred me on that if he can learn English without lessons and he's just spent time learning it because his motivation was so high, then you know what? Perhaps you and I can learn another language, in Spanish, Thai, you know, whatever, Indonesian, whatever it's going to be, to make your assimilation into other cultures in a hybrid version, which is what we talk about, much easier. So anyway, just little heads up. I've got to go catch an Uber again. So hopefully this Uber driver is just as good as the last one. Get back home, and then we're going to go and have a look at. There's a little museum down the end of Dan Street. We're going to go and roam the area. I'm going to try and get some footage of this quintessential little suburban-y. I wouldn't call it suburban. I don't know. It's a little neighborhood of where people live, but it's basically in the outer ring of Mexico City. So, all right, guys, we'll catch you there. I'll talk to you soon. Bye now. Hey guys, one of the sites or one of the things that you got to go and do when you are in the suburb of Coyoacan is go to this big, basically a war museum. So it was an ex-Catholic convent that was used as a fortress for soldiers, and they had battles here all around the grounds against the Americans, you know, back in the 1800s, or actually no, 1900s, so, you know, 18 something. We're really excited to go in and have a look. We've been told to go in. It's pretty huge just walking around the complex, really nice and leisure, so we're going to go in and see what it has to offer for us. So let's go. Hey guys, well, that was our tour inside. I've got to get this right and I've got to read it off. Is Museo Nacional de las Intervenciones ex Convento de Churubusco, which was, as we said when we were coming in, basically huge big nuns convent, walled fortress, and it's been used over the years in you know, wars gone by with the Americas. It was used as a big fortress. So for me, it was pretty interesting seeing, I guess, out of everything. So there's a lot of artifacts in here. For me, a couple of things stood out. One was the different versions of the American flag over those last 150, 200 years, and the different versions of the Mexican flag. And the second thing that stood out was, as you run through, I guess, the timelines and you see a lot of the wars, the amount of times that the border from Mexico to the US has changed is actually incredible. So California, Nevada, Texas, you know what, it used to be Mexico effectively, and it wasn't that long ago. It was only probably 150 odd, you know, maybe 170, 180 years ago. So you can understand why sometimes, you know, the Mexican people and the US people probably have a bit of a love-hate relationship. You know, they probably feel like they're entitled to be in the US because once upon a time that was their land. I guess the Native Indians might have a few thoughts about that as well, but it's pretty interesting to see. So, I mean, Selena, what did you think was probably the standouts for yourself?
Look, I never knew about all the American war against Mexico and taking over the Mexican land, and that was probably the biggest eye-opener for me, to see how much America has encroached into Mexico, which was really interesting. The costumes are great. You'll see pictures of those up as well. But the whole storyline behind the convent and I guess where it's been used for wars has been really interesting to look and see. Crews loved all the weapons that are around, and it was really, really good to come and see this. It was great.
Yep. I mean, there's a couple of things. When you turn up, guys, there are not English subtitles on any of the sections. Okay, so any of the signs, even if you listen, you know, push a button, there'll be someone speaking, you know, about this thing. It's all in Spanish. So if you can't speak Spanish, well, you're just going to have to, you know, interpret in your own way. If you really wanted to, you know, understand what it is, maybe on your app, like a Google Translate app, you could read what it is, or you could bring someone who could teach you, you know, translate for you. But no, there is no English translations. So that tells me that this is really for the Mexican nationals and the Mexican natives, right? This is for them. This is their history. This is their proud history. And this has been done for them. I didn't see any other Westerners in here today. That's all the Mexican people that are coming to visit. Another thing that's also interesting for me is, like, this is a Catholic nuns convent fighting against what was the American people, which in turn 100 years before that were the British people. So that might have been, I guess, if you try to look at some sort of religious sort of battle there, maybe the Church of England versus Catholic. It's very interesting when you see that wars have been fought Christians versus Christians a lot of the time. You know, and had to have a big nuns convent as one of the main hold-ups and you know, battle stations effectively. And we saw a layout of a model, little figurine kind of scale, you know, model, which people who are into models, oh, it's your wet dream. But you see, like, you know, like basically people standing on top of the walls of the convent, you know, shooting down, and the Americans coming with a flag, and, you know, big battle stations outside. So pretty interesting. And again, not that long ago, was it? I mean, if you talk, you know, 150 odd years ago, that's there'd be, what's that, 6, 7, 8 generations back, and there'd probably be a few emotional scars still probably hanging around. So anyway, look, if there's one thing I could say that that probably is a little bit tricky for it, didn't spot any toilets.
I did.
Oh, you guys
We
did?
did.
Okay. The toilets aren't easy to spot. Maybe that's it. Maybe the toilets aren't easy to spot. There were a lot of things that were roped off as well. So there were other areas I would have liked to go into. Couldn't go into there. So anyway, guys, like, I do recommend it. It was 85 pesos per adult, and crew was free. So that's 170 pesos. Not very expensive. Well worth the money. Down in the suburb of Coyoacán, which is just south of Mexico, Ciudad Mexico, in the central area. All right, cool guys. Thank you. We will see you again soon. Bye now.